so pumped to have you guys here. We've started this, and today, guys, we have something very, very special for you. So today we're going to be talking about actually the most important skills you need to actually become a self-taught developer. And we're going to be actually going over the fact that these companies, you guys, do not require a degree to actually get a job. How crazy is that, Sonny? That's pretty insane.
Yeah, dude. Like, this is what we want everyone to know, that these crazy big companies, guys, do not require a degree. And I think that's going to blow a lot of people's minds. And we're going to show you what skills you do need to be a part of these companies nowadays.
That's right. So, guys, now one thing I want to do for you guys is we have a special guest coming in here today, okay? And this is actually going to be one of his first videos, and he's nervous actually right now, which is actually makes it even more amazing.
Hey.
So if you guys know and you've been here at Clever Programmer, guys, the last every single video, like maybe the last 100 videos on Clever Programmer was made by this person, okay? He also helped this channel grow to 650,000 subscribers that we are today. And when he actually joined Clever Programmer for literally a whole year, he slept in his car so he could work and grow this company and help us crush it at a whole another level. You guys, I have the utmost respect for him. Everybody on the team thinks he's one of the best people that we've ever had the privilege to actually meet. He's extremely knowledgeable. He's extremely skilled at what he does. And his humility is just amazing. So guys, what you're going to be learning today, all of this presentation is actually developed by him, and he's going to be just bringing you so much value, and his understanding of how he sees the world is super powerful. So please, guys, pay him the most, like the biggest, upstanding applause. We're going to be bringing in Frankie Alarcon. Let's take it over. Woo! I'm so pumped, you guys.
Hey, let's go, Frankie.
Yo, what is up, people? How we doing, man? Hey, Sonny, how's it going? So, as Kazi said, today
I'm
we're
good,
gonna
Frankie.
touch on, the companies, the biggest companies that actually hire software developers without needing a college degree. And so we're gonna touch a few points, a few of the skills that we think are the most important that you need to pick up, to actually land a job or even get your career started with programming. So let's get into it, guys. Honestly, this intro was even too much. Thank you, guys. So let's go.
Dude, we are pumped to have Frankie on. Let's go.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So yeah, man. Tesla, Twitter, Whole Foods now is owned by Amazon, which is pretty much a tech company as well. You can order your groceries online and everything. Google, as you know, Facebook, Instagram, Costco. All of these companies hire without needing a college degree. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's worth noticing, guys, Netflix is one of the highest paying companies when it comes to software development, which is insane.
Yeah.
Like
How much was the pay? You actually told me a little bit ago.
330K, dude, they pay their developers, which is insane.
That
And
is
they don't require a college degree.
that's
Yeah.
almost $500,000. And was it to be a front end
Yeah.
developer for Netflix?
Yep. Yep, that's right.
That's insane. Some people
That's right.
think you cannot earn enough being a front end developer. Some people think you earn even more being, a full stack or a back end developer. But it really does depend on what company you're working for. So now,
Exactly.
with that in mind, let's kind of go into this, whole presentation. I think a lot of value is going to be given. So, guys, please pay respect to Sunny and our presentation knowledge, everything we're trying to share, because it's really going to up all your skills. So let's go into it.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's do it.
Cool. You want to kind of explain this, Sunny?
Yeah. So, guys, the first thing we want to talk about, right, is whenever we sort of jump around this sort of stuff, have a why, right? And the way we're going to talk about how, like, finding your why today is know what your end goal is, right? So, in this case, on this channel, we talk a lot about JavaScript as our main programming language that we want to learn. We're going to teach you guys, and we will sort of want to show you the possibilities when you are using JavaScript. Now, here we have like 3 different options that JavaScript can bring you. And what we want to focus on right now is understanding the sort of possibilities that you can go into. So one, we have the ability to teach. So you can see on the top right, we have JavaScript, and then we have the ability to teach with JavaScript, right? And you can see that's going to be something where you can actually earn a bit of money very, very quickly, right? So like very, very quickly, you can start earning an income with the ability to teach. The second thing we're going to talk about is the ability to jump in and handle freelance clients, right? So you can see this is something which is going to give you a bit more money, and it's going to be a case of like you can handle if you can handle one client or 50 clients, it's completely down to you, right? And then the final one is where everyone wants to get to, and that's landing amazing jobs at Google, Netflix, Instagram, Apple, those kind of things. And those companies pay big, guys. So just what we want you guys to sort of pay attention to is that before you actually jump into this video right now, just have your end goal in mind, right? And all of these things, guys, allow different possibilities. The final one, landing a permanent job, is going to give you stability. Freelancing means that you can travel anywhere, guys. Like you can literally work remotely. You can do whatever you want to do, and you can handle your clients as long as you have a laptop and internet connection. And the first one, being the ability to teach, is literally going to be something which you can start doing from day one. So if you start coding a week, you're now a week ahead of somebody who's never coded before. So you can offer immediate value.
Yeah,
And that's what we're going
even
to go through today.
Michael Lecomte, right? He was here, I think yesterday. He was on a live, and Michael actually started getting a bunch of clients just teaching them how to code with, I think it was C++, his one of his most strong languages and understandings of. You can actually build
Yeah,
a career out of teaching people and actually earn good income. He was earning around $4,000 a month. He's still getting clients to
that's
this
insane.
day and scaling that business up while doing other things on the side.
Amazing. And guys, we would honestly recommend that you always be teaching on the side. So it doesn't matter if you are doing freelancing or landing a permanent position, there's always going to be a room for a side income when it comes to teaching. So amazing thing to know and bear in mind.
And the cool thing about teaching as well is the fact that, you're earning money while learning even more. So you're kind of engraving those understandings really, really well inside of your head, inside of, actually outside of you, because you get reference experience of the people, processing your information. You have to refine your information once you're sharing it with others, and that's going to make you even a better coder.
Exactly. We have loads of comments coming in, guys. How to my end goal is to become a freelance developer. Awesome. Eli Malay. Nice. My end goal is to have boats. You can have boats if you do really well, guys. So
Let's
like
go.
this is something you have control over. Nice.
I did want to touch on the fact that each specific journey that you take, for example, if you're teaching code, or if you want to become a freelancer, or if you want to get a high paying job at a tech company, all of these skills, all of these actual choices require different skills. So, for example, if you're going to become a freelancer, sometimes becoming a freelancer actually entails having a little bit more soft skills, having a little bit more business skills. Sometimes people that look for top tech jobs might not have that edge of business, and that's why they might want to build other things, build bigger things, and that's kind of where their focus is at. So I think personality is a big factor in distinguishing what journey to take, what goal to have in mind.
Huge, massive, massively. Yeah. I mean, like you get some developers out there who have all the technical skills, but they can't really hold a conversation for longer than 5 minutes, or they're very introverted. And guys, you
Exactly.
do need a balance. You do need a balance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're gonna touch on the number one big point, and we feel like communication is key. So, Sonny, you want to
Yeah.
explain a little bit of the differences of styles of communication?
Yeah, so exactly, guys. Communication is going to be one of the biggest things, which is why we've actually put it as the number one, sort of one of the highest sort of skills that you need to know as a self-taught developer. So interpersonal and non-social. So we've broken them down into two different things, right? Interpersonal, when we say that, we're talking about soft skills. We're talking about like your time management, your leadership, your ability to work in a team. All of those things are crucial to your success as a developer. Now, you may not think about these things when you're developing. You might just be thinking like about technical aspects and like, I just need to learn the language and that's going to be it. But guys, do not underestimate these abilities. This is the difference between a developer who's going to get paid like 30,000 a year to 100,000 a year. Literally a case of that. Like it's going to be huge, right, Frankie?
Definitely. And obviously, for you to be able to manage a team, to work with a team, to influence other people, your communication skills have to be on point. Specifically, if you want to become a good developer and you want to let your team know what exactly you're doing with the code, you have to be able to, present that in a fashion that people can digest. So, definitely,
Exactly.
interpersonal communications is one of the biggest aspects of coding that you can actually, take into account, that not a lot of people take into account. Now,
Exactly.
I'm going to touch a little bit into non-social communication. So the non-social aspect of communication, I think Tech Lead actually talked about it being anti-social communication. Just in general, I did not like that name. I was a little bit biased towards it, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's a very important point to touch, just because it's one of the biggest things of non-social is talking through email, making blog posts, making actual things that are written crystallized, because if you have some sort of storage for that communication, other people can actually access it and add to it and then learn from it and even make changes from it. So that's
Exactly.
that's
And
non-social.
guys, this is something which is huge when you have like, let's say you start a tech company, right? Or you built a product and your product's amazing, right? Like you need to be able to tell or like market your product. And like what this is one thing I actually fell victim to. I just I became so like entrapped with the sort of mindset of coding that I literally forgot, and I actually got really bad at the sort of other skills like writing. Like, and it sounds very silly, but like coding is all about writing shorthand, right? It's all about writing short variables, or like getting your code neat and concise. And guys, you need to remember, like, you need to keep hold of those other abilities in terms of like writing really sort of effective emails or effective blog posts, or like even Medium posts. It's amazing not only to write, like to read them. I
Yeah.
think it's really good practice to actually like incorporate reading them day to day, but like also actually writing your own Medium posts is really important, and I think it will actually benefit you a lot.
So let me ask you, Sonny, what got you out of that type of mind frame of having your head inside of the code too much and actually unraveling yourself to becoming a better communicator? What was that
So
point?
honestly, honestly, failure was my number one sort of teacher through everything. I found I just hit a wall, right? Like I hit a wall. So I remember I built a little product once, and I was wondering that like nobody was buying it, right? Like nobody was buying this thing that I built, and it just came down to a point of like I was
Wow.
sort of stuck in a place where I didn't know the next step, and I was like, hang on, I've done everything technically correct, but like I feel like I've done everything, so why is it not working? And then it was only till I started surrounding myself with people like Kazi, Frankie, Aaron, like all the guys, and I realized marketing and that ability to speak to your customers and the ability to actually communicate with people is huge, right? And not only that, as a developer, your ability to actually have that side of the skill set as well is massive. Even with your communication to your employees or to your team members, everything, it really does make a difference. So I think, Frank, let's jump onto actual like what are the sort of soft skills, because a lot of people hear it being thrown around, but we don't actually understand what that means. So what are soft skills?
Here we go. So soft skills, they're also known as people skills or interpersonal skills, like we already talked about it. And some of the examples that you can see here on screen would be, leadership is a huge one, teamwork is a huge one, time management is really big too, and obviously communication is all part of that. The flexibility in your
Yeah.
communication is also what's going to take you to, do hard things like negotiation, hard things like conflict resolution, and things of the sort. So all of these type of things are called soft skills, and it is the skills relating to dealing with other type of people.
Exactly. And like this is usually like a good comparison here is comparing them to something like hard skills. So remember earlier, this whole talk is about pretty much why you don't need a degree and how you can succeed as a self-taught developer. So in this case, we tend to actually prioritize our hard skills. So like how quick can we type? How good am I at programming language? Or do I have the degree or do I have a certificate which proves I'm good at this? Right. But let's say you have everything on the left side, right? Let's say you can speak like 5 languages, you can code in like four different other languages, you have a degree, you can type really fast. But let's say you lacked all of the social skills. Let's say you couldn't even like hold a proper conversation, or you couldn't actually express your ability to code as a developer, right? That immediately cuts your chances of landing the position or job or client like drastically, because not
Nobody
only are
nobody
you
would want to work
yeah,
with you, right? At
yeah,
the end of the day.
yeah, exactly. And you, how can you build trust if you're not able to portray like what you're capable of, what you can deliver? All of that requires that communication, flexibility, leadership, those things which are pretty much listed on the right. And something which was massively useful, right? So this was, I think, Frankie, have you read this book as well? Soft Skills?
I've never actually. I just heard amazing stories from it, from Kazi, from you. We actually met John
Yeah.
Sonmas as well, so we even see it in his personality, right? That it's just something that's been integrated into him, and also people from the company as well, you and Kazi, like I
Yeah.
said.
Exactly. And you know what? That's a really cool story that Frankie touched on there. So that's actually how, like, I watched a video back in the day where Kazi released it about some books that you should read. One of those books was Soft Skills, and pretty much it opened my mindset as to like all of these the skills which you can pretty much see listed on the right. And that actually led to me eventually working with the Clever Programmer team, guys. So like, don't ever take these as like skills that, oh, I can learn them later on or down the line. These could potentially change your life. Like these will affect your life as a developer massively, and they are skills which take time to develop, just like it does with coding. And you should invest like that time, and it's going to pay off. Like it will. And this book, guys, is called Soft Skills: The Software Developer's Life Manual by John Sonmez, and I would 100% recommend that everyone goes ahead and grabs that book.
Yeah, and the thing is, the biggest way that soft skills are actually going to change your life is due to the fact that you're going to be able to communicate with people, and people are everything, man. Companies are made out of people. Software is built by people. So when you do
Yeah.
refine your communication skills, then you'll build more relationships. Then you'll have more opportunities. Then you'll see what else to do. So that's the way that soft skills are going to change your life.
Exactly. Exactly. Somebody said another book, Roadmap to Freelance Developer. Oh no, that's a video. Oh no, my bad. It's a video. Okay, awesome,
So,
nice. Yeah, I tell you.
touching on
Yep.
communication, that really does lead me to, like I said, building relationships. One of the most important relationships you can build is actually finding yourself a mentor. So
Exactly.
you
This
spoke
is
about the importance
huge.
for you,
This is
right, Sonny?
huge. What was that?
You spoke about the importance of finding a mentor for yourself, right? Can you tell me a little
Yeah,
bit about
dude,
your experience?
this was like game changer for me. Like honestly, if I could list like the things which made me a better developer from like 1 to 10, this would be like number 1, because every time I was in a position, or I was like, even if I was freelancing, I would reach out, or I would go to like these conferences and things like that, and I would go ahead and actually try and find myself a mentor, like whether that be a senior developer at the company, whether that be like somebody who's just a little bit more experienced in like React or Redux or something like that. I would make it a mission to find somebody who actually was like a level higher than me, right? And that the reason why, guys, is because that is going to save you so many hours. I cannot stress it. Like if you're new to development, or like you're in that self-taught journey, find somebody, whether it be through Facebook, whether through the YouTube comment section, find somebody through Stack Overflow. Just find somebody who knows a little bit more than you, and literally ask them. Just ask them, because most people, they don't think you can ask, when in reality, if somebody came up to you and approached you and said, hey, you're really good at something, would you mind teaching me? You need to think about it. Like, chances are you probably would say yes, or you probably would be like, oh yeah, I don't mean, like, this guy's they're making you feel good, and at that point you would want to learn, and it's going to save you a lot of time and headache, with debugging and a lot of other issues. What's your thoughts on that, Frankie?
Definitely, man. I think it is a shortcut to life, to be completely honest with you, just because of the fact that somebody else already put the time in to learn some skill. So they have already invested a bunch of time and probably had so many failures in that specific subject that whenever they speak to you, it's just going to be a huge shortcut for your experience as well. It's learning
Exactly.
through osmosis. And one of the things that I want to add to that, as you were saying, it's really a reality that you can go up to people and tell them something like, hey, you know what, you're really good at coding. How about you teach me a little bit of your secrets, of what you do, of how you learned yourself. I want to kind of be in the level that you're at. You can kind of approach things like
Yep.
this, and I would add that, offer something to them. So maybe be like, please teach me the way that you code, and I'll teach you how I do wireframing, because I'm a very visual person and
Yep.
I see that you're very analytical. So always try to bring something to the table. Don't just ask for something. Always try to bring value so that, it can be an equivalent exchange. And that in terms is going to build a huge and a very good relationship with the person that is mentoring you. And
Dude, that's actually genius what you touched on. Like the whole thing about the UI. Like I actually sucked at UI, right? So I could do front end development, but I was trash at UI. And eventually, what I did is I reached out to some guy who was at the company I was working for, and I went ahead and said to him, I was like, dude, like I can code, and he wanted to learn how to code, and I was like, I can code, but my UI is terrible. Like, do you mind just giving me a crash course on like user interfaces and things like that? And that's actually how like I managed to start building apps like the
Wow.
clones that we built and how they start looking the way they did. Because yeah, like that's really, really good point that you made there. Like honestly, guys, offer some kind of value. And literally, it's pretty much a no-brainer at that point. Like they're going to enjoy it. Like they're going to get something from it. You're going to get something for it.
That's completely awesome, and I love that you have experience with that, and that it was actually something similar. And if you guys are enjoying this content, do like the video. Right now we got, I don't remember his name. He's from Silicon Valley, but talking about the mentor, talking about the mentor context. So I think that helps. If you guys find this content valuable, actually like the video. It helps us a lot. It really does mean the world to us because this allows us to share it with a bunch of people like you. So let's move on.
Exactly, guys. Like, smash the thumbs up, and if you're finding value in this, like, it's gonna help someone else find value from this. So, if you guys are enjoying it, you know what to do. Nice.
Cool. Another great thing about being able to develop your communication skills is actually writing. So one of the biggest right now platforms of writing in the on the internet is Medium. So Medium is really cool just because of the fact that it's so easygoing. Like you just look at articles and you can see how long they are in minutes. That to me adds like such a human experience to it, and so it makes me actually want to read articles. And there's articles of all types of things, whether it be business, programming, anything in general. We've seen Kazi actually put up a lot of Medium articles on very specific tasks about business and programming. So, even for him, he actually uses it as a note taking app in a way. So, instead of storing it on your computer, you're actually storing it on the internet. So then you just Google it, whatever it is that you're trying to look for that you already made on the past, then you have access to it.
Exactly. And guys, think of it this way, right? Like in the morning, if you spend, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes just watching a TV show while you have breakfast, right? Like, for example, look at the article on the right. That's a 3 minute read. A lot of Medium articles are 3 to 5 minutes long, like in terms of read. You could fit about 4 or 5 different articles in while you had your breakfast. Now, imagine you do that in a week and in a month and in a year. Like you're going to accelerate your development so far, it's going to be ridiculous if you, as compared to somebody who didn't open up their phone and just check out a few articles. And guys, like this is going to teach you not only like what's new in the development world, it's also going to tell you like the good practices, the sort of experiences that other people had, so that maybe you can avoid those same problems that they've made. It's also going to make you a lot more better when it comes to your writing abilities, because you're going to be involved in a lot more reading. And I was actually somebody who was late to this scene, and it was only until like Kazi really I sort of started seeing him like write blog posts and things like that, like that I actually saw the value in that. So this is something which, if I was being a self-taught developer now, I would 100% be doing a lot more of.
And think about it too, if let's say you didn't go to college and you built your portfolio is great. Imagine how good it looks to show that you've made so many articles on coding. Imagine the authority that it brings to you, and imagine the impact that it brings to others, not only to you but to others. And so even that
Exactly.
helps your career tons, and helps distinguish you from the pack. Makes you very unique because you're
Exactly.
providing value to the world in your own words, literally.
Exactly. And like, guys, who are we kidding? Like a resume and a CV doesn't do it anymore. You need more. You need like a Medium articles are a great way. Portfolios are a great way. A great way. Like that's just gonna help you stand out from the crowd.
Definitely. So now we're going to touch on our second point, our second must have skill to learn as a self taught developer. And that is
Yep. Learning how to learn, guys. Like this is something like as soon as me and Frankie both said it, like we both were like, yeah, like this is something that has to be in here, right? Like learning how to learn. So Frankie, let's touch on the first point about finding your learning style. What do we mean by that?
awesome. So everybody really does have a different type of learning style. And so I find myself to be a very audio person. I like to hear things and I also like to see things. So to me, those are, I think, my strongest ones. And right now, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. Some people are better, you know, learning with other people, like through osmosis. Some people are better actually with tactile type of learning, which is, touching the actual thing. Some people are better just thinking about it logically, so you do have to find the way that you learn yourself so that you can actually go at this the long term. Because let's say, it's taking you 1 week to learn something, because you're trying to learn it by just listening to it instead of actually looking at it. And by looking at it, you'd probably, learn in 2 to 3 days. The time difference is just massive. So that is a huge deal. What are your thoughts on that,
Exactly. And honestly,
Tony?
guys, like finding your style is going to mean all the difference between like spending an hour effectively versus like just sitting there, just like bobbing your head and wondering why nothing's going in. Because like even reading books, right? I always knew that, yeah, reading books is a good thing. I just can't, for some reason, I can't concentrate that long on reading, right? So then I found Audible. And then literally when I would go for a walk, I'd go for a jog, or if I was doing like if I was at the gym, like if I didn't want to listen to music, I'll just stick on Audible and I'd just listen to the book. And I found that was really effective for me, right? And that actually was when I started to be like, oh, holy crap, like I'm actually taking this stuff in. And then I found I was also a visual sort of learner. So like honestly, finding your learning style is going to be a very important step. And it's the first step before you actually start even doing things that I would recommend that you guys go ahead and like try and identify what works for you and what has worked for, in the past for you.
Definitely. I think it's a huge thing. You cannot ignore it. So I think,
Yeah.
go to it right away. Right away. If you're learning something, if you're trying to learn a huge skill like programming is that requires a lot of focus, make sure you're learning the correct way for yourself. Now, you want to
Yeah.
touch on time management, Sonny? I think you're really good at this, so I think it would be perfect for you to tell us your experiences with it.
Yeah. So I remember when I was at university, like somebody actually said to me, and this is like again, like it's funny, guys, that we're actually doing a talk today about why you don't need to be in university, and I can 100% vouch for that because I've been to university and I just it's not needed, like it really isn't. So save your money and do this instead, like, but like somebody at university anyway told me about a time management technique called Pomodoro, right? Now, Pomodoro is a small technique, it's a very simple thing that you can implement straight away. And all it is essentially you take 20 minutes or 25 minute sessions, right? Where you focus on nothing but the tasks that you're working on. So let's say you are writing a Medium article, you're going to focus 100% of your attention towards that Medium article for 25 minutes. Then you have a quick 5 minute break. And in that 5 minute break, you do anything you want besides work. Whether it means check your phone, check your notifications, go to the toilet, and fill up your water, whatever it is, you do that in that 5 minutes, right? You do that 4 times, and then you have a long break, and you give yourself a bit like a half an hour, hour. And guys, it's so simple to implement, and I promise you, like once you just try it out, like that, you'll just see like, oh my God, I can get so much done in 25 minutes that before was taking me an hour to do. And Frankie, have you used Pomodoro technique?
I use it a lot. I actually use it for editing because
Nice.
sometimes I feel like when you try to push creativity, like creative work, it sometimes doesn't work that well. A lot of times it does, but
Yeah.
a lot of times it doesn't. So what I have to do is kind of get into the flow of pushing myself to just say, okay, I'm going to work for 25 minutes or 35 minutes and then give myself a 5 to 15-minute rest. And when I do that, and I
Nice.
do that multiple times, let's say I do that for like 2 or 3 times, that gets me in the flow
Yeah.
of creativity and like it lets my ideas flow. So I use it a lot for editing. I use it a lot for when I'm doing very hard tasks because sometimes it's really hard to
Yeah.
just to sit down and focus like that. And I wanted to ask you, Sunny, because I know that you have your master's degree. And did you ever use
Yeah.
Pomodoro? Because I know, managing your time during, academic things like this, specifically something as hard as a master's degree in computer science, you have to be
Yeah.
very aware of how you spend your time and then your energy and your focus. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so really good question. So like two things here helped me succeed with that. So one was being understanding that I was actually a visual learner. So I ended up actually literally I surrounded my entire room with like pieces of paper with like notes in different colors and stuff like that because that worked for me and like it would force me like as I walked into my room, as I left my room to stare at that piece of information day in, day out. And what I would end up doing is that's the first point, right? That was the first point was understanding my learning style. The second one was the Pomodoro technique. Actually, like a lot of us suffer from procrastination. So I do. big time. Frankie, do you suffer from procrastination?
Yo, I'm the king of procrastination, man. It's insane.
Like literally, you open up Netflix, and before you know it, you're like 5 episodes into Game of Thrones, and like 5 hours of your life is you're never gonna get that back, right?
Yep.
So instead, I literally, when I found Pomodoro, I was like, oh, okay, like 25 minutes. Is it really long enough for me to get anything done? And like before you know it, I was like crushing it. I was all of my work was getting done. I had so much more free time. And it blew my mind because like you can literally actually spend a lot more time doing the things you enjoy because you're actually focused when you're doing what you're doing. And guys, I forgot who said this, but like when you're eating, right? You are eating. So focus on eating. Enjoy the food, like enjoy what you're doing. When you're coding, you're coding. So like focus on that. But don't worry about other things or don't have your mind elsewhere because like when you are literally like concentrating and focused 100% on a task, you should just be thinking about that task. Like if you know that you need to go and get food later on, that's a task for later on, right? Give your 100% attention in that 25-minute session, and then when you get that long break, then you go and get your food,
That's
right?
exactly right,
So it's a
man.
good way of yeah,
That's a very Zen-like type of teaching, very like Buddhist-like type of teaching, and it really does
yeah,
remind me of our next point, which is learn how to handle stress and anxiety. And one of the big things that you can do is actually meditation. So I know, Sonny, you like to play a lot of meditation music while you're doing your coding and everything. Can you tell us a little bit
yeah,
more about that? What type of practices you
yeah.
use? What helps you?
So I actually used this as well while I was studying a lot. So I used an app called. So I did try and do it off YouTube, and I really didn't find like a lot of success in it because I just didn't. The truth is, guys, it is a skill to meditate. Like it's something which you need to practice, and you need to build like an endurance for being able to like sit there and meditate and actually try and clear your head is quite hard. So I used an app called Headspace, and I'd really, really recommend it. You can get on the App Store, Android and iOS, and basically it's an app, and you pay a monthly subscription, and all you basically do is just follow the steps in that Headspace. And before you know it, I was doing from 10-minute sessions to 30-minute sessions. And why this was so good, guys, is for one reason: it just gave me clarity. It gave me clarity on my life. Like it gave me clarity on what I wanted to focus on. It gave me that clarity as to what I was sort of stressed out about or things like that. And whenever I feel that life kind of goes a bit haywire and crazy, I just kind of turn to meditation, and it really kind of serves as like an anchor and pulls me back in. And when I joined the Clever Programmer team, I found it amazing because Frankie is actually all about meditation, right? So like Frankie, like how was your journey and like how did you get into meditation? What are the benefits that you found from it? And why do you like teach other people how to meditate?
Man, meditation to me was just insane. When I learned meditation, it was a way for me to actually I made it very practical for myself, and I feel like that's the reason why I went very deep into it. So for example, one of the ways that I used it in specifically in programming, I used to actually program Android apps, and the way I was actually telling Sunny this, the way that I would think about UI designs, it's a very known thing to think about your UI design in the way in how many clicks it takes to get to a certain menu, to take to a certain action, and things like that. So I would literally visualize in my head, how many clicks would it take me to get to, I was thinking of developing a meditation app, actually, a binaural beat app. So an app that you can actually
Nice.
listen to different type of brain waves, and these brain waves get you to different types of thinking or mind spaces or whatever. And I feel like, like you mentioned, Headspace is actually a very good app that you want to use if you want to start meditating right now. Headspace is actually a tech company. It's actually $1 billion company right now. Who would have thought that meditation is that?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a billion
Holy
dollar
crap, I didn't know
company. So who'd have thought, meditation is that popular, man? And yeah, like I was saying,
that.
the way that I used meditation was to visualize, my journey around my UI design. So I could literally design in my head, and then I could put it into code. So for me, it was a very practical way to use it, as well as stress and anxiety, which is a huge part of coding when you're debugging, when you cannot think of the right function to call. All of these things, man. People don't normally take that into account, the psychological factors of coding, but it's such a
Yep.
huge thing. And I would really recommend everybody to go into meditation and start that.
Exactly. And do you know what, guy? Like, it's a really good point you touched on. Like, when it comes to coding, guys, especially when you're self-taught and you're in that early part of your journey, right? How many of you guys can relate to this? And like, throw it in the comments. Let us know. Like, always used to feel that sort of pressure of like, am I clever enough to code, or like, am I really like, am I doing enough? Like, am I like, am I cut out for this? And like, the truth is that, guys, like, I wish like I just knew the answer to that like earlier on. And the truth is, guys, it's completely normal. And I've spoken to the most senior developers, like the most skilled developers, and it's something which is a normal way to feel. And every single coder feels it. Trust me. And like, this is why it's a really important point. Meditation is going to help you control that stress and anxiety, which is why we felt it had a place in this list.
We have a comment by A7GR. It says, "Hey Sonny, sup dude? Just want to confirm to
Hey,
that these guys are crazy. Like they are doing a live streaming here while other coaches with Nas are in a live coaching call. Just enroll in PWJ." So it's crazy,
that's
man.
so dope.
Right now, there's another call with the PWJ group, and Nas is leading it. So, I mean, that's the way that we do here. We try to provide a lot of value to you guys. We really push ourselves to our limits, and, it helps us grow so much. And at the same time, bringing that much value to you guys. So, we're really blessed. We're really grateful for being able to provide that for you guys. Please drop it in the comments below
Yeah.
if you guys are liking it. And if you do like that video, because, like I said, it helps us a ton.
Exactly. And also, that's Ahmed from the course. What's up, dude? Nice.
Awesome. So one of the
Let's carry on.
biggest things as well that we can do as a developer, and one of the biggest skills in learning how to learn, is your ability to Google.
This is huge, dude. This is so big, and for some reason, it's off every single list, right? Like, there's a really funny meme on the next slide. Let's go check that one out. And like, guys, this is the most like relatable meme on the internet, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you have 10 years of experience when you code, or if you're fresh, like, and you're just beginning your development journey. Like, you are going to have to master the skill of Googling, right? To this day, people think like you just memorize this stuff. Like honestly, the truth is, yeah, there is pattern recognition. You do seem to like remember things through repetition and sort of like repeating code. But the truth is that I don't remember how to write certain kinds of functions. I
Or,
mean, I always forget this stuff.
or is
Like,
it better
yeah,
or is it that you become better at Googling? You know?
exactly. You know how much like imposter syndrome is a thing, like
Yeah,
is actually a thing.
it's
Like
huge.
we're not sure if we're actually good developers or are we getting good. Yeah,
We love this meme. Yeah.
it's so
So
good. And like, guys, truthfully, like the ability to Google is going to benefit you massively. Yeah.
drop in the comments below if you've ever watched Futurama, because that's where we got this meme. So
Hey,
moving forward, like I was saying, the learning styles is a very important thing that you need to dive into because, like I said, different people learn different ways. So some people, learn the bodily and kinesthetic way, which is being more aware of your body. Some people are very good, building things with their hands, building tools, building desks, all of these things. Some people are very smart being interpersonal, like actually, communicating with others, conveying their ideas with others, working with the team. Some people are good just at verbal language and speaking, trying to articulate what they're saying with words. They're very good. Kazi's huge at that, I feel. Logic, he's very good
yeah.
at logic as well. I feel like I'm not so strong in the logic sense. I think I can be, but I'm definitely more visual. I'm definitely more audio. And actually, I say this spatial too, visual and spatial. What do you think you are, Sonny?
It's a good question. Like I feel like I'm very like I'm very visual, right? Like I feel like I'm quite a logical person. I like to break problems down and sort of go from there. I feel like I am quite interpersonal. I like to be around people. But very recently, I noticed I'm quite I don't know how you say it, kinesthetic. Like, as in,
Hmm.
I like to be active, right? If I'm not active, literally to the point where sometimes I'll jump on a call and me and Kazi would just go for a walk. So he'll go for a walk in LA, I'll go for a walk in London, and we'll just talk because like just being out and being able to walk around like and this and that, like it somewhat connects your brain like a bit differently. Like, and even like they're like going and training every day or something like that, it allows me to sort of clear my mind, get back on and kind of align. And like it doesn't work for everyone, but for me it's a big deal. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. You have to dial that in, guys. Know what your learning style is, dial that in, and go all in. So now we're going to touch
Exactly.
on different ways that you can learn to code. So one of the most important things that you can actually research for yourself is coding resources, especially if you're being a self-taught developer. This is going to be gold for you. So can you tell us a
This
little
is
bit more about
massive.
these examples, Sonny?
Yeah, so guys, like honestly, if you're in the beginning of your journey, these are going to be huge for you. So honestly, the first one, which isn't even on this list, is YouTube. So firstly, well done if you're here, because this is like a first step in like using a free coding resource. Like it's going to be something which like you will help you grow, and it's going to help you sort of like better your skills as a developer. These ones as well. So on this list, we have Code Academy, Khan Academy, Code Avengers. That's interesting. Treehouse is quite popular. So these are all places, guys, where they offer a lot of free content. They do have paid courses on there. But if you're just getting started off, you don't have to stress about like, setting up your development environment. They just kind of have everything laid out. And I'd recommend that you do go and check them out and just go ahead and play with them, get started as a developer and sort of get the basic fundamentals going with using these things because these are built and they research the best ways to get it as easy as possible for you to get started. So these are going to be really, really good resources to go ahead and get started with. W3 Schools is another really good one.
Yep.
It's not on this list as well, but that's really good. Yeah.
Definitely. So that's why I say you have to dial in your actual style of learning because each company does have a different style of teaching as well. Here in Clever Programmer, we try to keep things very fun, very engaged. So if that's your style of learning, do actually join one of the courses that we have here. We even have free courses, we have paid courses, everything. I'd say, whether it's our company or any other company, put a little bit of skin in the game, and actually if you deeply want to learn this skill, pay for it, because once you pay for something, it just makes it that much more serious. If you're just getting free content your whole life, it's going to be very hard for you to dive super deep into an 8-hour tutorial, an 11-hour tutorial, 12-hour tutorial that you have to follow just because. But if you actually paid for it, man, you're going to want to have that ROI back. So even that is leverage. Even knowing that you learn with a little bit of pressure on your belly, on your back, makes you learn that much more. Makes you understand that that can be your style of learning as well.
Exactly. And guys, this is something which I would really like add on to what Frankie said there. Like, really, really do like focus on like investing in yourself. Like, it's if I asked you today, like, would you pay like $500 to go on holiday? Like, most people would say, hell yeah. Like, where are we gonna fly to, right? But if I said to you, would you pay 500 in yourself to literally change your life so that you can make more money and go on as many holidays as you want? Then it becomes a completely different question, right? And most people will be like, oh, I don't really know. But then they want the end result, right? So remember what we said in the beginning, focus on your end goal first and then figure out how to get there, right? So in this case, investing in yourself is going to be one of the most crucial things that you can do. And like guys, we do offer a course called Profit with JavaScript, which fits in here perfectly. And it does teach you a lot of things. So I would recommend you use the free resources out there. On the channel, we have a bunch of free stuff on which will literally help you get started and get going. And then if you do feel like you want to take it to the next level, be sure to check out Profit with JavaScript. There is a link in the description if you guys want to go check it out. And pretty much, yeah, you can pretty much go from beginner all the way to your end goal, like we spoke about in the beginning.
Definitely, man. Even adding to what you said about investing in yourself, I feel like that actually is a habit. And once you start doing that more and more and more, it's like you're actually betting on yourself. You're actually believing in yourself. So you start kind of framing your mind in a certain sense that now you believe that you will take action on the things that you do, that now you're actually going to bet on yourself because you do see yourself following through all the way. And I feel like that's a huge
Exactly.
and important point to touch if you're going to be a self-taught programmer. Another big point that I
Yeah.
do want to touch on is actually optimizing your workflow, because if you do want to be the most productive that you can be with the time that you have, everybody has 24 hours in a day. The only difference is everybody manages their time different. And so if you're able to actually work with the specific tools that can help you either make your workflow faster, either share what you're doing with your team, or just moving files around, these are some of the tools that we ourselves in Clever Programmer as a team internally use. Can you explain some of these, Sonny?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. So Frankie and the guys got me started with a bunch of these tools. So I wasn't actually using Alfred before. I was using Spotlight, just the built-in Apple thing. And like Alfred is the middle guy with the hat. So it's actually I only found out today the reason why it's called Alfred is why, Frankie.
It's funny. It's funny. I told him today. And I actually saw the name and I'm like, wow, isn't that Batman's butler? And yeah,
Did
that's
everything for
exactly
him.
what it
Like,
is. Yeah, man. And I was
yeah,
like,
that's so cool because like,
go ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna say because literally, because Alfred, guys, it's so powerful, like literally to the point where there's a really handy feature on Alfred where I've got it hooked up to Command Spacebar, so it literally pops up on the screen. But if you like on Alfred, if you pay for the sort of booster pack, which is only I think it's like £10 or something, but like once you have that, literally every time you copy like a piece of text, right, it will literally keep track of like the last 3 months worth of your copied contents, which is
That's
huge. Like I
amazing.
literally never have to like remember things anymore. It's insane.
Yeah, man, I love
So
that.
that
Like, even if you're, you have a snippet of code that you need to paste for another project, even if, you're trying to get a specific line of code or even a comment or even, anything, a password or really, a URL link, something like that, a UTM parameters like we use a lot in our team, all of these things are stored there for even 3 months or even, I think, even more, man. But to me, that's one of the most
exactly.
handiest tools for sure, Alfred.
Yeah, definitely. The next one is so the one on the right is really good. It's something called Yoink. So that's Yoink. And the reason why this one's really cool, guys, is literally like it should be built into Mac, like because it is, or like even Windows, because it's
Yeah.
so handy. It's like a little thing that pops up on the side, and you can just hold some files in there, and then you can pull them out as you need them. So definitely, if you're interested, check that out because the whole team uses Yoink. Loom is a cool one for making really interactive videos very fast. So there's no editing. You just hit the record button and then you have a little pop up with your face in it from the webcam. And then you can just sort of talk through your code. That's really good, guys, even for applying to job interviews. Because what's really cool, like, is you could send a resume to a company, right? But if you send a personalized Loom video going through their website saying, hey, I checked out your website and it's really cool, really amazing. Like, I love all this stuff. This is what I can do. Hey, why don't you check out some work? Go through your work on a Loom video. Like, that immediately sets you out from the crowd. Like, it immediately just makes you different. It makes you sort of somebody who they're going to actually pay a little bit more attention to because they've gone out of your way to do that. The final one, which isn't on here, guys, is actually setting up your coding environment. So, a lot of people use something called Visual Studio. We use Visual Studio Code to actually get coding and get up and running. Guys, personalize it, optimize it to be like your playground because that's where you're going to spend all your time learning, right? So Prettier is a really good extension I'd recommend. VS Live Share, so you can pair program with people is amazing. Me and Kazi, me and Aaron and Kazi, like literally everyone on the team has used VS Code Live Share to pair program like in a Google Doc, right? There's so many handy plugins and stuff like that because optimize it so that you have fun while you do it. And I can see a lot of questions about like how can I stay motivated? How can I like keep like how can I keep my motivation levels high? Like Mohammed Dawood Hamid asked, how do I stay motivated to code? And guys, truthfully, motivation, and this is something which I think Frankie will agree on, like motivation will always come down, right? Like there's gonna be like when you start your journey, motivation is gonna be skyrocketed. It's gonna be so high, but like your discipline is what you have to focus on and build, right? And like building that is going to be your crucial thing as to succeeding as a self-taught developer. But your motivation, like sort of a little hack I use to keep my motivation high is just make my whole workflow fun. Like if your workflow is fun, you enjoy what you do. And if you enjoy what you
Definitely.
do, it's easy to do it.
Man,
Yeah.
if you're playing the long term game, you definitely have to make it a little bit pleasant for you because if you're feeling discomfort all the time, it's gonna obstruct you from actually getting the things done like you want them to. So actually making your workspace flow a little bit better, it's gonna save years. Not even just that, just your emotion, your energy is gonna go through the roof. So that's a huge point that we like to touch here. And one of the last tools that we forgot to touch on is actually Rocket. And this is Rocket. This is for Mac. There's
Oh
obviously
yeah.
equivalents for Windows as well. Rocket is cool because I feel like it gives a very human touch to text. We're talking in computers a lot. So if you're able to put emojis here and there, it actually conveys a lot of, data just visually in text. So that's an addition to it, definitely.
Yeah. Rocket, guys, just to be clear, is a way of just adding emojis into your text in a really like easy way. So you just do colon and then you get like you type in what you want and it'll pop an emoji on the screen. So really, really human sort of thing, which actually makes a big difference when you're doing a lot of sort of people to people conversations.
Yeah, we use it with our ads. We use it when we're taking notes that we share internally on the team. All of this. This takes me to
Yeah.
actually another big part of learning to learn is going to be a huge, huge, huge thing for programming in general, for programming interviews, for literally the academic side of programming, and that is going to be.
Data structures and algorithms, guys. So data structures, in my opinion, are the ones that you should focus a lot of your time around because it's practically what is going to be important for most scenarios. But if you do want to kind of go the route of sort of going for like FANG companies like Google, Netflix, Amazon, they are going to test you on algorithms because it's all about optimization and efficiency. So like that's like binary search tree algorithms, that sort of stuff. Now, me personally, I actually don't dive too far into algorithms. I kind of just focus on mastering data structures and what I need in what situations. Frankie, what's your thoughts on this, like data structures versus algorithms?
Yeah, man. Data structures really do dictate the way that you're gonna code. So, for example, if you're thinking about maybe searching through a list that you don't want any repetitions, you might use a hash map if you're using Java. Or if you're trying to traverse through a linked list and you're going through a list, then you might want to use a certain type of algorithm that, I don't know, it can be like a divide and conquer algorithm or something related to that. But really, the data structure that you use is going to dictate the code that you're going to use. It gives That's why it's called data structure, because it is a
Yeah,
structure of data. At the end of the day, I
exactly.
myself never
And this,
dove
yeah.
too deep into these two categories. The farthest that I learned is really traversing through linked lists and actually, binary trees, and seeing how algorithms work. They're actually not as hard as people make them out to be, and they're actually very, very visual, and it's what a lot of people don't sometimes pick up.
Yeah. And just to sort of pop a bubble here, like, guys, it's like a big elephant in the room whenever we mention the word algorithms. Because whenever I used to hear algorithms, I was like, oh, algorithm sounds cool. It's like, I want to learn how to use, like, make algorithms or write algorithms. All algorithms are a sequence of steps. Literally, if it's like, if you need to go to the shop, it's like open the front door, walk out, go inside the car, put the keys inside the car. It's literally steps that you're gonna follow, right? Same for the computer. Like it's a series of steps that you're telling the computer, and then that's how you're gonna get it moving, and this and that. And you obviously you get in different levels of complexity there, but don't overcomplicate it. And honestly, like don't freak out. Like we said, focus on the data structure stuff until you really need the algorithm section stuff. Like, because honestly, even in my experience, I haven't actually found too much of a need for it yet. So I would, if you want to sort of know from experience, I would say focus more on the data structures. And that brings us on to the next point, which is huge, and I think is one of the biggest talking points, and that is what, Frankie?
It is debugging. Debugging. Actually, debugging is might be one of the biggest things in programming, and it actually, we were talking about this, Sonny, and it's, in my opinion, one of the ways that you learn the best, because you're actually troubleshooting your code. You're
Yep.
realizing you're backtracking the steps that you did. You're like, okay, this is connected to this. If I delete this, then this is gonna happen, and then it kind of gives you a whole symbiotic process of your code. What is your take on debugging?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Like, guys, like this is where like it's one of those things that you kind of have to like have conversations with developers and sort of understand that like it's a normal thing, right? It's one, it's a normal thing, and two, it's literally the place where I probably learn the most when I'm debugging. When things break is when I learn the most. And like one thing I will really just need to address straight off the bat is I get a lot of like messages from like students and people who are sort of following our live streams, which is basically about they're getting stuck and then they spend like an hour or two debugging, right? Guys, be prepared when it comes to this, and you just have to like be prepared for this. Like be prepared to spend hours and hours debugging, or like even if it takes it like days. I've spent a week fixing a problem before, but I'll tell you one thing, like when you solve that problem, I can promise you that same issue will not bother you again in the future. Like, because you would have spent hours and hours and days, and that's literally where it really ingrains into your head as to what was it that, well, how did you fix it? How did you identify the problem? How did you sort of do it? And these are things which they can't always be taught. You kind of have to go through that element of sort of like sitting there and banging your head against the keyboard, but it's a normal process, guys. So like Frankie, what would you say is to like to answer those people who are like, I can't code for like 8 hours, or like like you hear about these developers, like even when we do live streams, we're coding for 5 to 6, like 5 6 hours at a time. Like a lot of people sort of they sort of want to do that off the bat. Is that realistic?
Not at all, man. It is like everything else in life. Any skill that you do want to learn, you have to build that stamina and that endurance. It's like running. I love running myself. I'm a huge fan of running just because of the psychological
Yeah.
benefits that I see of it. And really,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man, because stamina is so related to the consistency of the consistency that you have. That because at the end of the day, for example, if I stop running for 3 days, just 3 days, man, it's gonna be very hard for me to run 3 miles. But if I'm running every day,
Yeah.
like let's say today I ran 3 miles, next day I can run 5 miles, next day I can run 8 miles. But if I
Yeah.
stop running even 2 days, if I run 5 miles, then the next day the 3 miles are gonna feel even more than the 5 miles. So it's the same way with coding, man. It's if you are not used to coding for long hours and you want to code for 4 hours straight, your brain is gonna be a little bit fried. So you're gonna have to take breaks in between, and you're gonna have to build up to that.
Exactly. And it's all about the consistency at that point. Like focus on consistency as opposed to like spending hours and hours and hours at a time. Like the hours will come, guys. Like having all night coding sessions, that stuff naturally like sort of starts to happen when you sort of just like Frankie said, like stick it consistently and day by day you'll notice that growth and you'll notice that you can spend longer debugging. But it is one of those things which like naturally in the beginning is one of those more painful processes, but it's the most valuable thing because you will never stop debugging, and that's the truth. You will never stop debugging, so you might as well get really good at it, and that's going to really help your journey, especially as a self-taught developer, and how you learn. And this leads us on to the next point, guys. Like debugging is one of those scary like processes, right? It's a scary process because sometimes you can feel like you're just hitting a wall and you can't overcome it. So the one thing we would recommend is actually get inside of some kind of community, right? Whether that would be Stack Overflow, whether that be YouTube or something, but like get inside a community. And this is where like we have an amazing, like I just feel like there's like I'm yet to see a community which touches like Profit with JavaScript because like we have 1,300 plus people and it's growing every day. And like guys, like if you get stuck in Profit with JavaScript, like I literally I can't even respond as quickly as some of the people jump in and help out a student or like it's amazing. And like Frankie, you've seen this firsthand as well, right? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Man, it's incredible. To begin with, 1,300 people in a Slack community that are super duper active. Like, wow, it's like having a village, having a whole village of developers inside of one specific platform. The thing is, the most interesting part about it is that everybody has a similar goal, everybody has a similar path. And so, once you're around people that actually, are looking to go the same way, it has this magnetizing feeling towards moving to your goal. You see other people getting a job, getting actual results, and you're like, that person could do it, I can do it too. I mean, I talk to him a lot, I actually know how he works. I mean, I think I can be in that skill level too as well. So it's actually very motivational to be in a community like this. It's huge, man. If you do want to stay and be a self-taught developer on the long term, play the long-term game, you have to look for a community that works for you.
Yeah, and truth be told, like I'm yet to find something like that, like which is why Profit with JavaScript jumped out to me because I was one of those people who guys like we've all been there. We're scared to kind of write into that Stack Overflow that I'm stuck on something because Stack Overflow makes you feel so dumb sometimes, especially when you're learning in your journey. Like it's one of those places where somebody will come out like you'll write a comment saying I'm stuck on this, and you'll literally have five developers tell you like you're a piece of shit,
Yeah, man.
like literally, and yeah,
Community
you'll
is
just have
toxic
people just
there.
like shoot you down. Exactly. Like they'll just literally like go at you. Like so like we do recommend like if you guys are interested, it's the first link in the description. Go and check it out because like if you have run into any of those problems that we sort of mentioned, like we can promise you like we fix that in Profit with JavaScript. Like we this is like the reason why most of like literally every single one of our students say it's worth a 10K coding boot camp. Like
Exactly.
because they just see so much value in that sort of community itself, let alone the coaching calls and everything else.
So many
So
different
really, really big
people
deal.
in different types of levels that are together in one place are actually just going to boost up your performance, your ability, and really your whole motivation to code. And
Exactly.
this takes me to my next point, and this is a huge point if you want to become a self-taught developer in 2020. Now that everything is getting modernized, everybody's going into the internet. Something huge is actually creating an online presence. Can you talk a little bit about that,
Definitely.
Sonny? Because I know that you have
Yeah.
been very
So
consistent on Instagram and even on YouTube, man.
Yeah, like, as in, this is something which, like, I wish I did earlier, guys. Like, I really wish I did. Like, Kazi is the ultimate example of this, guys. Like build like a following, right? Like, and literally, it's not. It's if you if, the way to think of it is like most people that I see who are starting off who don't do this. Like, the difference between those guys and the guys that I see posting like daily and frequently about like this is JavaScript, this and that, because the difference is like it's a way of keeping yourself accountable. It's a way of constantly ensuring that you're moving forward. So like by posting new content every day, you need to be creative. You need to think about like, hang on, what can I post today? And like it's gonna force you to learn about what's new in JavaScript, what's new in web development, what's new, like what can I learn today, which is gonna be cool for everyone else to see. And like this goes on to the next slide, which is basically a case of like, guys, record your journey, but like on literally, so you got Instagram, you got LinkedIn, you got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got YouTube, like, and don't be afraid. Like, and there's a really like good video by Gary Vee, and it's like, just stop giving a shit about like what everyone thinks. Like, just go ahead and record it. And as a developer, guys, like I can't stress enough, like record everything, including your failures. And yes, like when I say that, like include your failures as well, guys. Like, because it's literally going to be a case of like that's a moment where like this is where like we sort of remove the Stack Overflow problem, because when you literally are able to go ahead and say like, yeah, I'm failing on this today, like you'll be surprised about how many other people are failing and like or sort of stuck on the same issue. And then you start a community yourself. Like, you start talking, you meet people who are like-minded and doing the same thing as you. Well, what do you think about that, Frankie? Especially with the failures part, because a lot of people sort of like a bit like, whoa, what do you mean like record your failures?
Yeah, man. I think that definitely it's super important to document your journey, like Gary Vee says. Some people, it's very hard for them to start, recording their journey just because of the fact that they want to create something. They want to create a scenario where it might look good on camera. But the truth is that the best thing that you can actually see on camera is authenticity, is genuine action, is really what's going on in your life. And the way to do that is actually just documenting your journey, man. I know for a fact right now, Chris Sean is one of the YouTube channels that I like. He's a smaller YouTube channel, and this guy really does literally document his journey. If he's getting fired off, from his work, if he's actually getting another job, he's being super transparent with this. We might have him on the channel soon enough. Shout out to Chris Sean.
Yeah,
But man, the
that'll be
failures
dope.
are super important are a super important part of your journey. It actually gives a little bit of flavor to your journey. If you don't have any failures, man, it's like you can't really boast about anything. You can't really say that you struggled because everything seems like a landslide from there. So
Yeah.
that really does take us to our next point, which is develop a programmer's mindset. So can you speak a little bit
Yeah.
about this, Sonny?
Yeah, so guys, this is a big point because it's literally like when we kind of go into coding, right? We go in very like with a naked mindset of like we just don't know what to expect, right? Like, and we just kind of assume like it's a straight path. Like, it's a straight path, and like you have a beginner in the beginning, and at the end of that road, you have like some developer position or a job or something like that. And even at the end of it, like when we starting off, I didn't know about teaching, I didn't know about freelancing, I didn't know about any. I just knew that maybe I'll get a job at the end of this. But the reality is, it's not a linear sort of. It's not like a line, right? It's a circular sort of mindset that you kind of need to adjust to, and this goes into like getting your attitude right. Like, how do you stay positive and how do you stay motivated? And like I said, motivation is something which you're going to start off with super high. You're like, wow, there's so much money, there's so much this now. I want to do this forever, blah blah blah. But then you need to be able to build that discipline, right? This goes on to like your behavior. Like, what are you going to change with your behavior? Like, are you going to start like like incorporating like a Pomodoro technique to make sure that you keep yourself accountable and you make sure that you're like sort of doing your work when you need to do it? And that leads to like actions, right? Actions, like when you have a problem, are you going to sit there and actually act on it, or are you going to just sit there and stare at the thing and sort of make up excuses and things like that, right? When you do that enough times, it's going to lead to actually leading to some kind of result, right? That result could be literally you getting paid by a client. That result could literally be um, you landing a job, right? And then what happens is that when you do those things, it builds your confidence, right? It builds your confidence, your performance overall as a thing goes up. And then again, that goes into your attitude. It makes you feel good. So you see, like, it's this circular movement, right? And Frankie, I feel like you have some really good insight here, especially when it comes to like the sort of the attitude and the behavioral side of things. Like, what's your take on that? Like, what do you feel about this sort of developer mindset?
Man, Attitude is everything, man. Attitude is. I cannot stress that enough. Just because when I've seen things go great in my life, whether code is not working, whether my job is not working, whether my living situation is not working, as Kasi said, I was living in my car for 2 months. Actually, that was
Yeah.
pretty insane. Attitude is what
Yeah.
actually dove me to take massive action to change my behavior. And you know what? Attitude really is it's what's that word that I'm looking for? It's contagious. You
Yeah.
actually it transfers to other people the way that you feel about yourself, the way that you feel about life. And man, this is massively important in a team. You don't want to be an energy drag for your whole team, especially if you're doing a project that's as hard as being a developer. Let's say you're building a rocket ship just like Daniel is. Let's say you're working in Tesla creating self-driving cars. You don't want to have somebody that's going to be a sinkhole of energy in your team. Attitude is one of the most important things because, as Sonny was saying, attitude does affect your behavior, and then action is really the byproduct of behavior. And then your action really brings results. So then the results dictate your performance, So, seeing that you're getting good results is going to affect your performance. It's going to give you positive feedback or negative feedback, and you have to reiterate from that. And I feel like being very honest with the feedback that you get, being able to be part of a community or a team of people that tell you, hey, man, you're doing bad right here. Like, you have to change this. You have to reassess this because you're actually affecting other people. You have to be very honest about, what is in front of you and actually being able to take action on that. That in itself is a huge skill that'll take you to become one of the best people, in your community. You're going to be super influential.
Exactly. And two things that Frankie mentioned there, which were gold, right? One is it's kind of like contagious, right? That attitude and that mindset is going to be massively contagious. So imagine like you have a bowl of fruit, right? What happens if you have one bad fruit and then it's like a rotten fruit? It spreads, right? It spreads and the whole bowl gets infected and all the whole thing's no longer edible, right? So like that's an easy way to think of it, right? So what we're trying to move to is like you need to surround yourself with like positively like charged minded and like-minded people, and this leads on really nicely, and the one place that you can go ahead and find people like that is like developer conferences, right? So developer conferences are going to be amazing places where you can go and find people that are like, not only that they're going to be developers there, there's many people that aren't developers that are like business people, so you might get exposed to different areas and different sort of things which you wouldn't have otherwise sort of exposed yourself to. But like, guys, this is really going to sort of help you um, take your sort of skill set. And like, for example, if you're lacking in soft skills, I noticed when I started going to conferences, I massively opened up and I became a lot more extroverted as opposed to sort of being that introverted developer. What's your take on conferences, Frankie?
Man, I love conferences of
That's how
all
that
sorts.
that's how Frankie and I met.
Yeah, exactly. That's how
Oh, no.
me and
That's
Kasi met.
Yeah, this is literally how him and I met, and that's how Aaron and I met.
Yeah,
Conferences are king.
that's
Oh, shit.
insane. One of the things that I did want to
Nice.
touch on is the fact that we mentioned, have an online presence, do record your journey. One of the big things we do in the team, every time that we go to conferences, we actually interview tons of people because there's no other scenario where so many like-minded individuals come into a place, and not only that they're like-minded, but the levels of their performance is huge. So all types of people of each level are in conferences. And so one of the things that we did last conference, we were at Funnel Hacking Live in Nashville, Tennessee, and we ended up having about 3 different interviews with people that we admire, and that's insane, man. We would never be able to have those type of interviews in any other part of the world, really. So, if
That's
you do want to
dope.
record your journey, go to conferences, meet these people, and it's such a good way to start a relationship. If you interview somebody, you have just that much more connection because you guys have produced, content together. You guys have actually, shared a bunch of experiences in front of a camera, which is a very intimate type of thing. Even that helps you build a relationship with that.
Exactly. And we had a lot of questions earlier as to like, how can I find a mentor? Or how can I find people like when I'm starting out as a beginner? Guys, this is like the place to go to. Like, honestly, a lot of conferences are free. Like, I went to a Facebook one recently in London, and that one was completely free. And I met a bunch of cool people there, and actually made a friend there who ended up helping me solve a problem I was having at work. Like, so like the sort of networking and the power that you're going to get from that is really unbeatable. And like, and that was completely free. So like if it's a sort of concern as to money, like guys, a lot of this is free. And also, if you're in different parts of the world, you can actually join conferences like digitally, and you can actually sit inside of like calls and this and that. And then like you'll meet people in the comment section. Like it's really definitely something I would recommend that
Yep.
everyone, especially
Especially
sort of developers. You know.
especially right now with the whole COVID thing going on, right now maybe there's not a lot of conferences going on, but like you mentioned, digital conferences are a huge thing. And actually, I know for a fact Nas is one of the people that would get a lot of ROI in conferences. He started working with us
You,
about in November of 2019, and he was telling us that a lot of his clients, freelancing clients, came from actually being in conferences. So, sparking up conversations with other software engineers or business owners, you can offer your service to them, try to solve their problems, and really all of those things are going to help you massively. And that really just takes me to my next point, our next point, which is
Yeah, so guys, like pretty much it revolves around the developing a programmer's mindset. So we've made like a few different points which are going to help you start and get on that sort of path to doing that. So one of them is we mentioned is finishing your projects. Now, what we mean here, guys, is literally it's and this goes hand in hand with number two. So mastering one language. So firstly, I think it'd be a good thing to actually explain that one. So guys, when you're starting off your journey, right? There's a lot of people that I hear like, should I learn this or this? Should I learn Java or Python? Should I learn JavaScript or like C++? Now, guys, whatever you learn, like all I will say is that like we've all sort of everyone on the team's coded for a very long time, and our honest like joint advice is literally a case of like once you know one language, it's very transferable, right? But the thing is, you need to stick to the language that you're sort of learning, especially if you're in a beginner level. Stick to the language you're learning, and actually build your skill set up to a point where it's a sellable skill, right? Build your skill set up to where it's point it's actually sellable. It's actually useful. If you keep jumping language and like you're doing Java 1 second, Python 1 second, and then you keep jumping around, you're never going to reach a point where you can actually sell your skill, right? And this leads on to the first point of like finishing your projects. So, Frankie, what did we mean here when we say finish your projects?
so a lot of people do have the habit of starting a project and just finishing about 80% of it. I myself have seen myself in that situation a lot of times, whether I'm like building an app or anything related to that. I would see that I would have the UI design, I would do the front end, and I wouldn't finish the back end. And I was like, oh man, it looks pretty, but it didn't have any functionality to it other than just linking me to another page. And the thing is that if you do develop that habit, it's really hard for you to get out of it. And the thing also is that you're creating a project, you cannot even put it on your portfolio because it's not a complete project. It's not something that can be sellable, like Sonny was saying. And you actually mentioned something really funny, Sonny. Right now that we were talking about specifically mastering one specific language. Some people do dive into a bunch of different languages and they're like, oh yeah, I know Python, I know JavaScript, I know Java, and I know all of this. And then somebody in the
Yeah.
interview is like, okay, well, can you build something in one specific language? And then they're like, no, but I know all of these languages though.
Yeah,
It's like, what is the point of that? You cannot build anything, so
exactly.
you're just kind of knowing knowledge to know it.
It's like knowing every single language
Ex-
on planet Earth, but you don't have a job.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Exactly. Like, yeah, literally, guys. And the one thing I'll answer here is that, like, if you are in doubt as to what language to sort of start or like what language do you sort of pick first, what I will say is like a lot of people kind of go towards, I don't know why this happens, but like they go towards like the languages like Java, C++, like the sort of like, oh, because they're the more tougher or clever languages that people say, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is throw that mindset out the window and focus on value driven growth. And what I mean by that is what is going to be the language that is going to give you the sort of most value, and think of it in a sellable way, right? Like if you have a client who comes up to you and says, I want a website built, it needs a front end and a back end, literally JavaScript is an amazing language for you because why? It's going to be very easy to like get things up and running as a front end. You can also use JavaScript as a back end with Node.js. Focus on that. If you went ahead and started learning C++, cool, you could probably build like an embedded little circuit board right now. How's that going to help you build like a website, right? Like, you see what I mean? Like, think about it in that sense, and suddenly the questions start making sense.
Yeah, man. A lot of people think that you do have to end up, learning a super complicated language or complex language like C++ or maybe even assembly so that you can know how, data is being stored or how how to actually do a bunch of complex things, that how a computer thinks, how circuit boards work, things related to that. And that somehow is going to help you know programming so deeply that you're going to understand other languages well enough. Well, the thing is that
Yeah.
it really is, what are you looking to do? If you're trying to build a web page, if you're trying to go into maybe AI, maybe something related to Python, I don't know. It does require different types of skill set. Sometimes it doesn't require you to dive that deep as to learning all the nitty gritty, like Sunny says.
Very British. Logan mentioned a really good question here, guys. It says, understanding that, I'd challenge you on, at least from a job searching standpoint. A lot of job descriptions are listing off 3 to 4 languages for entry level positions. How do I find a medium? That's actually a really, really good question. It's a really, really good question. And it's true. Like, a lot of job listings ask for like a bunch of different languages. So how do you find a middle ground? And what my answer is to that is like, think about it from this perspective, right? Like, if you have a web development job, and let's say the job is a React front end developer or something like that, in that job, I do agree with you. It's going to say like JavaScript, it's going to say maybe Java for a backend role or something like that, or Node.js or something like that. Like, but then what tends to happen actually in those job listings, if you look at it deeper, they're actually usually broken down into skills which are revolved around JavaScript. So like, ability to use REST APIs, ability to use Redux, ability to use things like that. And the ones that do list every language under the sun, I can tell you now, like, if you actually go for the interview and like sort of speak to them, it's literally because they've literally copied and pasted sort of another job listing, and they've just modified it and sort of made it sound like there's a very sort of common thing as to like, even when React first came out, there was job listings saying 5 years experience in React, which is something so funny because like React hadn't even been out for like a year at the time, but like people wanted like 5 years. So like the point is that like, to get a middle ground there, guys, focus on one language, and naturally you'll start to sort of build the stack, or sort of your knowledge around the stack that the job positions are going to be asking for. And then once you get a conversation going, it kind of moves to a point as just show them that you're eager to learn, and then the rest becomes like quite a sort of simple conversation to have.
Yeah, definitely. And another great way to actually bring down that knowledge to something practical is building projects.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Oh yeah, so yeah, building projects. Yeah.
here's an example of the Netflix project that Kazi and Sunny built a few days ago. This actual video is going viral. It's insane. We were surprised, man. I didn't know so many people wanted to build Netflix. So can you tell us a little bit more about this project, Sunny?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And guys, like, if you enjoyed, like, if you were actually here and built this project, let us know right now. And like, literally a case of, we just went ahead and like, what I will say is that like, if you're in your early journey, right, and you're sort of beginner, what I would definitely recommend is go ahead and check out the live sessions that we did, because it really, really was like, there's so many like value bombs in those videos where we just go ahead and build projects. And what we sort of taken away and leading here to is basically like, guys, when you're new, build projects. And like we said before, make sure you finish them, right? Make sure you finish them. So build the projects, finish them. And then, guys, what this is going to show is you do not want to be that developer who goes to a job, prints out a nice A4 piece of paper with a list of skills on it and says, this is what I can do. Because I'm telling you now, like, they're gonna look at you and be like, okay, but like, where's the proof? Like, can you actually? Or they're gonna ask you a bunch of questions, and they will catch you out if you're lying to them. So instead, if you have a website or project like the Netflix clone, for example, that shows that you can use Flexbox. That shows that you can use React. That shows that you know how to use responsive designs and CSS animations, all without saying a single word, right? So like, have enough of those on your projects, and you don't even have to explain at that point. They kind of throw the sort of list of requirements out the window. They're like, whoa, these projects are really nice. And that kind of does the speaking for you, and it gets you the interviews. So having a banger portfolio is actually going to really, really be something you're going to need to invest in and invest time. And I see a lot of people say like, I don't have time, or I don't want to invest, or I don't want to spend that long on my portfolio. Well, in that case, you probably are going to be stuck in a loop of like submitting hundreds of applications, because you're going to keep running into a problem of trying to prove your skill, especially when you haven't landed your first job. So literally, I landed my first job just from having like a project and a skill, like as in a project and a bunch of things on my portfolio that I was able to demo, and that changed it for me.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
definitely don't lie on your resumes, because a lot of times they're going to expose you. You do not want to be in that situation. So another example of a
Exactly.
good project to build would be the Amazon project that Sunny and Kazi built as well the other day. So these guys are going
Yeah,
ham for you guys. These guys are really teaching you skills that are very marketable and projects that a lot of people want to build right now. Amazon, Netflix, all of these, even Twitter, even all of these huge tech companies right now are super popping, and everybody wants to learn how to build very similar projects. So do stick around for more of the live streams that we're gonna be having the next days. So can you tell us a little bit about
exactly.
this Amazon project, Sonny?
Yeah, this was dope, dude. Like this was such a fun one. And this is blowing up as well. Like we really love how much you guys are loving it right now. But this showed like authentication, the React Context API, which is essentially a simpler form of Redux, which is like built in-house with React. But pretty much like with this Amazon clone, you could go ahead and you got a really beautiful visual interface, which was responsive, and then you can add things to your basket, log in, and then actually go to your basket and see a checkout page, which updates in it dynamically, right? So this was a really fun project. Logan says, "Is that an emoji inside the p tag? You can do that." Yes, you can actually put emojis inside your code, and it does work, which is really cool to see. But yeah, guys, if you do want to go check it out, really good project. Bunch of like knowledge, like sort of bombs in that video. It was definitely a really fun. And I couldn't believe how many people stuck it out and built the whole thing. Like it was amazing to see that. Like, and guys, one thing I would say is that if you do enjoy those, like literally, the only reason that me, Kazi, the rest of the guys were able to see those that you enjoyed it was because you guys tag us in stories. You guys shout us out in your sort of like Instagram stories and things like that. So like if you do enjoy it, make sure you keep doing that because we love those conversations with you guys.
Yeah, man. And the reason why you want to build these type of projects is really because you want to put them on your portfolio, right? So you want to build a strong portfolio that you can share with, recruiters, with the actual employees that are going to hire you. It really just serves even yourself to know what type of projects you've dealt in. So building a strong portfolio is definitely an essential if you want to become a developer, especially a self-taught developer, and also
Yep.
having an actual website as a portfolio is huge nowadays. It really helps you distinguish yourself from all the other individuals that just turn in a piece of paper that's that can get wrinkled, that can get even stained. Make sure you have a website for your own portfolio.
Exactly. And guys, if you do have a website, top tip, make sure you do what this guy did right here. And it says mattfarley.ca. So he went ahead and bought a domain. I see so many developers who have such beautiful websites, but then they just deploy it on like the default domain that they get given in like some services. And it's like when you have such a nice portfolio, but you don't link it to your own domain, like it's one extra step, but it does sort of tie it together. So make sure you get a custom domain if you do go ahead. And you should definitely build a portfolio if you're self-taught. Because that's going to be your sort of that's going to be your replacement for a degree, guys. That's going to be like your showcase. That's going to be everything which is going to demonstrate why a company or a client is going to take you on and trust you with the work and trust you with that sort of responsibility. So this is going to be everything for you guys.
Yeah, man. I think it kind of looks a little bit ugly when you have a portfolio that says something like, blogspot.com or like blog.com, something that just doesn't, have your own name into it. Just having your name
Yeah,
in that URL makes yourself a brand, makes yourself way more marketable. So that's a huge and important
exactly.
point. Another thing that we
Definitely.
want to hit, a big point, another top skill, and this is our last skill to hit, to become a self-taught developer. It's huge, 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 huge. If you do want to end up landing a job, if you do want to end up being part of a team, if you do want to contribute to open source projects, and that is going to be
Git, guys. Git is something that you all need to know. All right. Now, like Frankie said, and I think he just summed it up really well there. Like it's literally a case of if you want to land a job, if you want to work in a team, if you want to contribute to open source projects, you're going to need to know Git. Now, what is Git? It's basically a version control system, which is basically a way that like if you're working in a team or if you're working for a company, they store all of their code in like something called a Git repository. So most companies will be using Git. If they aren't, then probably don't want to work there, to be honest. Like, as in, it should be something which is a standard. And pretty much the things that you're going to need to know how to do are like how to create commits, how to create a repo, how do you actually clone a repo, how do you branch and merge and things like that. Those are things which you're going to, they're skills which are, yes, they're very scary when you first get involved in it. And I was very scared of learning. And honestly, guys, in Git, it's very easy to think that you're going to break everything, but I promise you, like, you can undo things in Git. And something that I'd recommend is that if you're new and you don't understand sort of, or you're very new to sort of using Git or version control systems, maybe use like a graphical user interface such as GitKraken. So GitKraken's a really good sort of a Git client. It is paid for, but there are free ones out there. I'd really recommend if you're new, why don't you just use a graphical user interface until you get comfortable with the command line? But definitely something that is worth investing your time into learning. And this is going to allow you to do what, Frankie?
It really is going to allow you to contribute to open source projects, man. And it's huge if you do end up, contributing to open source projects, because it's going to give you that much more leverage in an interview, in finding a job, just because of the fact that, you're actually helping a community of coders make their software a little bit better. And if
Yeah.
you don't have Git, then it's going to be very hard for you to contribute to this.
Exactly, and I actually contributed to a big open source project before. It's one called so we use it over at Clever Programmer, but a lot of you guys might have heard of something called Stripe, which is a payment processor, and I actually contributed code to Stripe. And when I did that, it blew my mind because I was like, I remember I was working on it, and I was like, yo, like they don't support what I'm trying to do right now,
Wow.
and I was like, but it really should, and I was so confident. I was like, no, like I'm sure they need to have this. I was using something called TypeScript, which sits above JavaScript, and it didn't have the correct type definitions and things like that. So I went ahead and added them, and then I remember I submitted it, and it blew my mind when it went inside. So even to this day, I get emails saying you're a moderator of the Stripe repo, and I was like, holy crap! Like it really does feel nice to be part of a community, and like loads of people use that stuff. So like if you want to be involved in that sort of scale, definitely learn Git and start contributing with open source projects. Really good way to find a mentor as well.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Stripe is such a huge company. It's a great company. It's interesting because it just grew so fast. Now it's $1 billion company, and I heard a statistic that even more than 50% of all internet transactions in the US use Stripe. Like, wow, what happened to
Damn.
PayPal? That's
Yeah,
insane.
that's crazy.
And so all of
That's
these
crazy.
all of these projects right here are open source projects that Facebook does have right now publicly. So React is one of
Oh,
them,
nice.
and we use it a lot. And that's where we actually built the Amazon clone and how we actually built the Netflix clone. That is Kazi and Sonny.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, like, and this is another thing, like, big companies, like, it's not just small projects. Whenever you sort of hear of open source projects, you kind of think they're going to be small things, right? React Native, like, both are like open source. You can contribute to them. You can actually go ahead and like investigate on like a bugs or issues. And like, if you ever get stuck, like, believe me, like, people do actually reply. And I can see GraphQL there. GraphQL is another huge sort of it's a massive way to sort of interact with your APIs and stuff like that. That's a huge skill that's worth learning for you guys who are self-taught right now and coming up in your journey. So definitely something to check. And why is all of this so valuable? Like at the end of this, we mentioned 5 skills, guys. We mentioned like all of these different skills that you need to like know and sort of take into account when you're becoming a self-taught developer. And the obvious end goal is to land a position or a job, right? So Frankie, let's go ahead and show them what is out there and what the sort of potential looks like at the end of the road.
So for a front end developer, at least here in Los Angeles, in California, USA, the average salary for a front end developer would be around $99,000. That is almost the 6-figure mark. That is insane, my man.
That's insane.
That's
I mean, with cash bonus, that is a 6-figure mark. Like, look at the cash bonus.
that
So
is
you get a
true.
3K bonus. Yeah, and guys, we're talking like massive benefits. And for those of you who are outside of the US, like I'm based in London, like guys, there is really no barrier when it comes to software development. Like you could be based anywhere in the world and work for like a US client. You could be based anywhere in the world and work for a London client. Like as long as you have internet connection and you have the skill set, you are able to sell that skill. right? So it's something to bear in mind when you're looking at this. Like, don't think that just because you're in a different country that like it doesn't apply to you. It really does. Like it really, really does. And and your skill level is going to determine that. So never write it off. Just think about. You remember, like we said, get your why and understand what your end goal is, and focus on that. And also, what leads on to this, guys, is something like JavaScript. So we said mastering one language, right? JavaScript is something which you can use on the front end and the back end. And like, let's go ahead and show you what a back end developer salary looks like. So look at that. That's insane.
There we go. So
120.
backend developer salary, yes, as you were saying, $121,000 a year. This is obviously based here in
Exactly.
California in LA. This is a huge, huge, huge type of salary. And really, it is a privilege, to be earning that much money doing something as fun as coding. And, touching up on all the points that we did hit, social skills, soft skills, all of these things are actually going to help you, increase your income. Whether you're a front end developer or a back end developer, you can now be and have the skills to negotiate your salary. You can say the terms that you want to work in. Maybe you can say, oh, I want to work remotely and be earning a little bit less, or I want to, work in house, earn a little bit more, or I just want to do these specific tasks. I think I can be this valuable to this specific team. You can now word out specifically what you want to do in that job. And so that also dictates how much money you're going to earn in that current job. So it's insane. It just opens
Exactly.
up opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, and we just showed you guys what a front end developer salary is and what a back end developer salary is. But remember, because it's like cross, like JavaScript goes across front and back end, you can become something called a full stack developer. And in most of the positions where I've been, it's been a full stack position. So basically, you can actually go ahead and actually be a full stack developer, and you can even earn even more than this. Like, so it's insane what you can actually go and do. And like, you can go from building an app's front end, so the way it looks and feels, to even like building out the back end and literally being building everything from start to finish with something like JavaScript. So it's definitely something which you should bear in mind. The potential is there, it is worth investing your time in, and it is going to be something which will guaranteed change your life if you put in the work.
That's right. So depending where you are in the world, the actual pay is obviously going to change. Depending, like Sunny said, if you're in the UK, if you're in Mexico, you're in other parts of Europe, if you're in Africa, you're going to have different types of pays. But the cool thing about the internet is the fact that you can actually get clients anywhere in the world now. And so right now with this whole, pandemic situation going on in the world, a lot of people are getting clients from other types of countries. And really, it's a privilege to be able to live in a country where, living situations are not that expensive as they are here in California. Sometimes that's why salaries are so high in places like Silicon Valley, San Francisco, all of these places, just because of the fact that it's so expensive to live there. So if you can be earning 100K, let's say in Virginia, which is a little bit less expensive than in California, that, that difference of the living expenses definitely goes a long way. And specifically, maybe you're living in Philippines and you want to get some clients in the US, or you want to get some clients in Europe, even in Mexico, who knows. It's not that expensive relative to the US to live in some place like Indonesia or maybe Philippines, and getting clients from other types of countries is really going to open up so many doors for you, open up even more business and actual more experience, man. It's going to connect you to the whole world. So that's one of the privileges of having the internet.
Exactly. And guys, this is like the market. This is the job that like literally leverages it to the max, and it takes it to a whole new level of like taking advantage of the internet. So definitely something to bear in mind. And if you guys are still wondering like where do you get started on your journey, or like where can you go from here, like in terms of like what we've spoke about and everything like that. Like we said, there are so many free resources out there, including on cleverprogrammer.com. And one which we definitely would love to mention here is that like the profit with JavaScript. Reason being, guys, is because literally we do take you from like a complete beginner all the way to the point where you are literally landing your first. Remember what we said in the beginning, knowing your why, right? Like and there was three income streams there. There was like the ability to teach, there was the ability to freelance, and there was the ability to land a permanent job, right? Now, not only like have we got our students in each one of those different areas, but like we actually get a tremendous amount of students in those areas now. And like I remember whenever I get messages on that, it blows my mind as to sort of like what we show and what we sort of see. And guys, it's definitely something to go ahead and check out if you are interested in taking it a step further. Um, Link is in the description, the first link in there. Make sure you go check it out. And yeah, Frankie, what do you think about what's your take on Profit with JavaScript?
Man, I love it. It's really surprising the fact that, sometimes our head is so stuck to the ground just, putting in that work,
Yeah,
making so much content, putting it out there for you guys, actually articulating different projects that the masses really want to see. Sometimes it's crazy to see, the actual results that we see from people, and we're surprised, man. We forget sometimes. It's like you're doing so much work on a screen that actually people reaching out to us and telling us, hey, I just landed a job, my business doesn't have to suffer anymore, or now I'm able to feed my family, now I'm able to take my wife on a honeymoon, all of these things that actually, humanize the experience of us putting this content out in the world. It's actually mind-blowing, and it does feed us. It does make the company even stronger, even more close together. It makes our mission clearer. So,
yeah.
we really do thank you guys for being part of the journey. And really, if you found this content valuable, do click the description below. And if you want to be part of a community like this, Profit with JavaScript is a perfect community. Like we were just mentioning, man, everybody's just so positive. Nothing like Stack Overflow. You don't want those type of, toxic people around you, especially trying to learn something as difficult as coding, because it might not be difficult, but it does require a lot of focus. You do have to put your heart into it. It's not something that you're gonna just, half-ass and then be great at it. It is gonna test you. It it is gonna demand a lot of you, and it's gonna let you know yourself to an extent that you've never really seen yourself. So Profit with JavaScript is really a prime example of really what you can be being in whatever level that you're in. And going the long term, going the long way, reaching that result, you have to find people like-minded like you. So
Exactly. And guys, remember we touched on a point earlier about like if you like you guys here right now are watching this to invest in yourself. You're investing time to watch us right now, right? Like literally like things like Profit with JavaScript are literally like it's the price of a gym membership, right? It's the price of a gym membership and it can potentially change your entire life. Like, and this is one thing I want to talk about whether it comes to books or courses or anything, literally like don't be afraid to invest in yourself because like we are very quick to be able to like spend money and go on a night out, spend money and go on a vacation. But like guys, like you have to remember like in order to get the lifestyle that you want, in order to like really push your skill set to a level beyond that, like investing in yourself is going to be the number one thing that you should be doing right now. So definitely do if you are interested. First link in the description and go and take a look at that.
yeah, man, like I was
Yeah.
saying, investing in yourself is really a habit. It's hard for you to start it in the beginning sometimes. And so, if you do end up betting on yourself, if you do get used to, putting your back on the wall and actually taking the action necessary because you actually put money into it, now your skin is in the game. It's an actual thing that we talk about here in the company a lot. You know, um,
Yeah.
actually being part of something and having something that you're gonna lose, that you might lose if you don't take the full action. That's a great driver for a lot of people. I know it is for me, and it to me personally, it's one of the biggest drives that I can actually put myself in. So now, we thank you guys for being here. Now we're gonna take a few questions. Please drop intelligent questions down below so that me and Sunny can actually answer a few of them.
Yeah, perfect. And guys, like we said, like I can see a lot of comments coming in where everyone's saying like, Mako Watson says, Kazi, Sunny, Frankie, good stuff. Keep it going, please, guys. We love you guys. We appreciate the support. And like, if you guys found this valuable, the lead, like all we ask is literally just smash the thumbs up button because it will help somebody else find it just as valuable and it will help change someone else's life. in a to be like for the better. We have one question which we can ask in the meantime while we wait for some more. It's by Darren Watts, so it's just a little bit up, and it says just a question regarding the Netflix clone that you guys built and posting it inside the portfolio. We're not originating that code, we're recreating what you guys created. How's that viewed by employers? So really good question. And my take on this is essentially like although yes, technically we are sort of like you're recreating code that we've done, guys, it's going to actually be a case of like it's not just as easy as recreating, right? Like a lot of people do, like the reason why people message is because they get stuck, because copying like a big code base like that isn't as simple as just like literally copying line for line, because there are things which go wrong, which takes a level of understanding to actually go ahead and get that moving, right? Like it takes a level of understanding to get that working and get over that. And Frankie, what's your viewpoint on this in terms of like sort of building projects, for example, like YouTube tutorials and things like that?
Definitely, man. I think that if you are building something that somebody's teaching you how to build, obviously play a little with it, have your twist to it. So, maybe the interface is black, play around with the colors, change out the UI, be like, "Oh, this looks a little bit more efficient. I'm going to try this." So now that you kind of have the building blocks of the whole project, then you can just spice it up with your style, and that's what's going to make you a great programmer at the end of the day, playing with what you're given, playing with the tools that you're given, you know, a lot of times you are working with a team, so you're playing with other people's code. This is a prime example of that. Now you have a project in your hands, and then you can build it to however you want to see it. And we right now, have offered a lot of great projects for you to build. Netflix, COVID tracker, Amazon, all of these. You can just change them up and put them on your portfolio, make them even better, share them with us, share them with people, help people with that actual code. Now I do have another question here that I think it's kind of interesting, just because this guy says he's been a PHP developer for the last 6 years. Sonny, what is your take on this? Node.js versus Python versus PHP?
So this is a really cool question because I actually coded PHP for quite a while back in the day. Like many of you guys might not know that, but yeah, like I did PHP for a while. PHP did power the internet for a very long time. Facebook was built on PHP for when Mark Zuckerberg got it up and running. So my take on this, guys, is Node.js came along and it wasn't super powerful when it first arrived, but now it is insanely powerful. Like you can build entire backends with Node.js. Python is something which is definitely a valuable skill, guys. It's really good for automation. It's really good for building powerful sort of backends, and you can also go ahead and build like front ends with the sort of web development stack. But I would recommend, honestly, at this point, I would recommend putting your time into JavaScript, in my opinion. Reason being, PHP is sort of getting sort of, not, I wouldn't say like deprecate, but in the future years to come, the market share, like the number one most wanted library right now is React, and that is JavaScript. Like it is such high demand, and you'll see PHP on that list is definitely flying lower. So my point is that you want to invest your time in things which are future proofed, where you're going to have some reassurance that you know that the skills you're learning now are still going to be sort of valuable in 5, 10 years. So my advice to that is Node.js, and then the runner up being Python. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I myself learned some PHP as well. Some people that say that it's
Oh,
super hard
nice.
to learn it. It's actually not that hard, like. And so I did that
Yeah.
while learning a little bit of JavaScript to actually host servers. And so,
Oh, nice.
I think it's a cool language. Yes, it's getting a little bit outdated. So do, focus your time on something that's a little bit more relevant, like JavaScript, and that's going to be future proof, as Sunny is saying. I see a comment here
Yeah.
by Elijah Fuller. He says, Frankie, could you promise us another video? I mean, my friend, I really am enjoying this. Hopefully, I can bring you guys a little bit more content. Thank you, for having me, for sticking out this long and actually picking up a few things that me and Sunny just discussed. We're definitely going to be bringing a lot of value to you guys in the future videos as well. We're going to be live streaming this whole month. And as of now, we don't have any end date to this. So it's just going to keep on coming.
Yeah. Exactly. We have a really good question. I've seen a few people asking now, React.js or Angular. Really, really nice, guys. So React.js or Angular. My opinion, React.js. We teach it on the channel. Like we have a bunch of sort of really valuable sort of resources that you guys can go ahead and check out right now for free. But my take on this, guys, is because React is a library as compared to Angular, which is a framework. Now, the difference with those two things is that React is much more lightweight, right? It's much more lightweight, which means the entry into it is going to be a lot easier when you're, especially if you're a beginner or you're learning. And also, guys, huge companies are built with React, like Instagram, Tinder, Uber. You have like Facebook. Facebook
Tesla.
built React, right? Like it's yeah, Tesla, exactly. You have all of these companies which are built with React, whereas in Angular, it was something there was there was a very high point where Angular was in high demand and use. But now, if you look at the sort of latest trends, the trends flipped, and React is skyrocketing, and Angular and Vue are sort of starting to come down. So, like, I would definitely recommend, like we said before, invest your time in something which is future-proofed. In this case, React. And I see Asad Ullah says, "What about React Native?" So that leads on to it. But if you learn React, you're not only learning web development, you're also learning iOS and Android development. Because if you know React, you can code in React Native. Put it that way. Like I learned React, and then I actually built an app for a company in my first job, and I didn't know React Native. I'd never coded in it before. So yeah, that would be my take on that one.
Yeah, man. I think it's an interesting battle between React JS and Angular. I mean, I feel like they're all symbiotic, really. It's depending on what you want to do. It's interesting because React JS was made by Facebook and Angular is made by Google. So, two of the biggest
Yeah.
tech companies, offer these languages or these frameworks for people to use just because they found more efficient ways to write their code. And it's awesome, man. I know that React Native is also a really good, you know, language to use as well. If you do know React, like Sunny's saying, you can translate that to React Native. But React Native, in my opinion, was really when hybrid programming, hybrid, mobile development started getting a lot of traction because other, technologies like Xamarin that were being used a lot of commercially actually didn't stick out that long. So React Native really gives the chance for hybrid mobile development to come along and actually stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, really good point with Xamarin, by the way. Xamarin was really like, it wasn't really pleasant to code in. React Native was much more of a better experience, and it's quite powerful. So definitely something to bear in mind, guys. Like, they learn over time, right? These things sort of, they don't gain popularity for no reason. They are popular for a reason, and it's definitely it's a safe bet to go with React. Yeah.
Cool. There's a cool question here by Monu Sachdeva, which says, "Will Dino.js replace Node.js?" What do you think about
I
that,
feel
Sonny?
like we need to drop a video. I feel like we need to drop a video around this because I see a lot of people asking it. I'm curious as well. So for those of you guys who don't know what Dino.js is, it's like so Node.js is a runtime environment for JavaScript, which is why you can run it on the backend servers, right? So it's just an environment where you can run JavaScript. Now, Dino is essentially like a more modern, it's newer, it's more modern sort of runtime environment for JavaScript. And the difference here is that like one of the main differences is that out of the box it supports TypeScript. So for those of you who don't know what TypeScript is, it's a sort of type definition sort of they call it a superset. It sits above JavaScript and allows you to say if a string is a string or if an integer is an integer, as well as a bunch of other things. And that allows your code to be more robust. So will it take off? I think so, but it's too early to tell. But in this, like with all of this stuff, guys, it's like when React versus Vue versus Angular, it's all going to take time and it's very opinionated. Is it worth learning? I would say focus on Node.js, in my opinion. Yeah.
Awesome. We got another comment here from Shintan, which says, "Is Flutter future proof?" I know Flutter has been very poppin', very inside of a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of YouTube content. I know Callie Halden made,
Yeah.
he made Flutter one of the top 5 programming languages, and Flutter is developed by Google. What is your take on Flutter, Sonny?
So Flutter is actually something which I'm actually looking into learning right now. And Callie Hayden's absolutely he's got some like banger videos right now with Flutter. So I definitely go check them out if you're interested. But Flutter is definitely it's got a lot of support right now. It has a lot of backing financially. I would say it's something which is a safe bet. So we spoke about React Native as being something which is quite like quite good and it's going quite well. But Flutter right now is actually something which is very performant and it does really well in terms of like when you actually get up and running in sort of Flutter. But something to bear in mind, guys, you need to think about sort of your trade-offs here. So Flutter is also in a different language. I think it's in Dart, Flutter is. So when you want to sort of, if you've only got limited time, learning something like JavaScript, and also guys, remember we just spoke about React versus Angular. The sort of the what's similar between those two things? They're both written in JavaScript, right? So JavaScript's a skill that not only is going to allow you to learn like a bunch of valuable sort of things, and you can do it on the front end and back end. But mobile development, web development is like the most popular library up and coming. Like I would stick with that as my sort of go-to in this sort of debate, as opposed to just learning something which is kind of cool,
Yeah,
if that
man.
makes sense. Yeah.
JavaScript is super versatile for whatever you want to do. Like you just mentioned, front end, back end, anything related to the web. It's insane. Now, React Native being able to even develop iOS and even Android apps, hybrid mobile development, that's insane. So, right now Akshay does bring the question React versus Flutter just because, we like these little versus type of questions. I feel like they give a
Yeah,
huge insight to them. What do you think about this?
exactly. No, no, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think React versus Flutter. React, guys, I'm gonna go with React because you can build websites, you can build web apps, you can build iOS native apps, all from one code base, which is amazing. Leroy Fernandez says a really nice comment. He says, "Sunny's amazing. If only he could be a mentor to show the path engineering hardly teaches what actually matters." So firstly, thank you, Leroy. We really appreciate like lovely comments like this. And actually, to answer your question, I am actually a mentor inside of Profit with JavaScript. So not only me, you have Nas, you have amazing, you have everyone inside of Profit with JavaScript. You have Frankie, you have Ghazi, you have everyone inside the team there, and you guys can chat with us, and we do pretty much mentor you and take you. And you guys can pretty much have a conversation with us at any point. So if you are interested, link in the description. But to answer your question, yeah, thank you, and yeah, I am a mentor.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of great mentors in Profit with JavaScript. Not only just a clever programmer team, but we also have success coaches. So success coaches are actually people from the community that are thriving in that community. They actually have a great expertise in coding, and we just bring them up in the community and make them leaders. So they help other people
Yeah.
in the community actually learn. They do review their code. They do teach them how to make their code more efficient, how to implement things better. All of these things are really part of Profit with JavaScript. Like we were saying, if you find this content valuable, click the link in the description below and actually learn more about that specific product that we're offering to you guys. Just because, like we said, we've seen so many people change their lives by taking action and actually applying all of these principles, being part of a community, taking into account building a portfolio, actually building projects that can be marketable, and building all these skills. All of those things are a sort of ecosystem that you surround yourself with so that you can thrive in a specific goal that you have. That goal right now would be programming. So that's completely awesome. Now, we do have a question here by Soaib Shaikh, and he
Right.
asks, which framework a beginner go through when it comes to Python based like Django or JavaScript based React JS library? So I think he's asking, what's a good framework for beginners when it comes to Python, maybe Django or JavaScript. Using JavaScript, maybe React JS library is a good thing to start as beginners. What do you think about this, Sonny?
Yeah, so I would say honestly, I would definitely recommend React. Reason being is because like I said, guys, compared to Angular, it's a library, so it's actually like one, they have a really, really amazing tool called Create React App, which is pretty much one line you run in the command line, and it pretty much sets up your entire app, gets the app running, and that's it. Like you have a starter template up and running in like literally less than like 3 minutes, which is insane. And then all you need to do at that point is then just plug and play as you need things, right? You don't need to learn the entire way how React works or something like that, as opposed to Angular, where you need to know everything before you can actually get something very small up and running. So as a beginner, I would definitely go for React.js. Yeah.
Awesome. Looks like React JS is winning every battle just because of its
Mhm.
versatility. It's, very easy way of being able to be digested and consumed and learn for beginners, all of these things. Now, watch and learn only actually is asking how to understand that my vanilla JS knowledge is enough for me to start learning React JS.
Right, really good question. Like we get it all the time in the coaching calls, and I actually tell everyone like if you at this point can get a website up as in like literally a web page on the screen. You can link your CSS to it, you can link your JavaScript to it, and you can pretty much write a function so that when you click a button, it launches your function or just says console log something. At that point, guys, what are you waiting for? Just go ahead and try React. Like honestly, just stop overthinking it. It's not too complicated. It's not too hard. Like just go ahead and get started. So something I would recommend is like you literally go ahead and is you just like if you're on the fence, just give it a try. Just start. Use Create React app. It will make your life super simple, especially when it comes to sort of getting involved in that and starting off your journey. But definitely, yeah, something which you can get started with right now.
Awesome, guys. I think we've hit a lot of questions now. Right now, wrapping up everything, these really were the 5 skills to learn if you want to become a self taught developer in 2020. There is a lot of implications now. It's a modern age. All languages are getting modernized. JavaScript is getting modernized with all of these new libraries, these new frameworks, this new way to applying to jobs. Right now, it's an interesting time in the world. You can get clients all over the world. You can work with whatever company that you seem good fit with, really, and actually contribute to projects that are massive and even bigger than yourself. So all these skills are super important. Do you want to do a little summary of these skills, Sonny?
Yeah, so like guys, today we pretty much spoke about like the top 5 skills which you are going to need to know as a self-taught developer to succeed. The first one was all about communication, how interpersonal skills and non-social are both huge, and that includes soft skills like the ability to write emails, blogs, mediums, basically communicate effectively, not just in your technical skills, but like in actually communicating with your team members. How do you manage your time? How do you handle sort of leadership roles and things like that, right? We spoke about that. We also spoke about how to improve those odds by finding yourself mentor, by doing things like reading Medium articles, etc. Then we spoke about number 2, which was learning how to learn. Right, we spoke about time management, productivity hacks, how to handle the stress and anxiety of the sort of natural pitfalls of what seems to happen when you sort of start that development journey. Like when you get stuck on a problem and you can't figure it out. We talked about how you can find your learning style, how the ability to Google is huge, and how that's going to pretty much determine like your success as a developer, because literally it's going to be something which is going to stick with you throughout your sort of coding journey. We gave you a bunch of tips and tricks on optimizing your workflow so that you can have a bit of fun with that. And also, guys, like creating an online presence and community and so forth. Number 3 we spoke about was debugging, guys. Debugging is massively important. It's something which you guys are all going to be stuck in for a very long time throughout your sort of journey, and it's something which you want to become friends with debugging. You want to become friends with that sort of pain and that sort of and guys, stop comparing to like the senior developers. You will get there. It just takes that sort of discipline and sort of building up sort of in your journey. And then remember, guys, number 4 was developing a programmer's mindset. So develop that mindset. We spoke about, but Frankie dropped a bunch of value bombs about like how your attitude affects your behavior, and that leads to sort of action results, and then in turn you performing better in your role, and how that's like a circular motion. We spoke about those things and like getting involved in conferences, like get a part of that, build your portfolio, do those things. And then number 5, we spoke about Git and why it's so massively important to land a job, because it's something which you're going to need in pretty much every workplace. Most companies use it. Like if they don't, remember, you don't really kind of want to be part of companies like that. You need it to contribute to open source projects. So guys, massive amount of value and knowledge that was dropped during this session. If you guys found it useful, smash the thumbs up. And guys, can we just drop like some fire right now in the comment section? Because like, and this is all goes towards Frankie, because this session was super valuable, and it's been Frankie's first live, and I think he's crushed it here, guys. And if you guys agree with that,
He has,
like drop him some comments and just like let him
Frankie
know.
has
Exactly.
crushed this live stream. Like, you guys have crushed this live stream. This is like one of the best ones we have ever done on this channel. Thank you guys, and like I can tell everybody's getting value. You guys almost broke almost 10,000 people have watched this so far, which is insane. And you guys have been
Insane.
sticking around the entire time. Like, it has never dropped below a certain. And I'm even looking at chat; it's going crazy. The value bombs in this one were amazing, guys. Should Frankie come back on this platform to speak? You let us know. Tell us in the comments below.
Thank you guys so
Hell yeah.
much. Yeah, we did discuss a lot of things. It's insane, man. A lot of factors, a lot of skills. It's cool because everything is just coming together now, you know. You guys are killers in programming, you guys are killers in communication. I mean, honestly, the whole team is, and it's really a privilege to be able to share this knowledge with hundreds, and even thousands of people, man. It really is a privilege. It really does humble me. Thank you guys for being here, you know. All of these skills, all of these factors, we do teach them in Profit with JavaScript, which, you know, we really want to make the community massive. We really want to bring value to the masses and actually make programming fun, make programming something that can be attainable and actually be able to, you know, show this in a way that can be digested really simple. And like I said, you know, we want to build a great community. If you want to be part of that community, make sure to go into the link in the description below, just because we've seen so much success in this, you know, specific program in this community. Like I said, it's only going to keep growing. It's only going to keep getting better. Make sure to be around these type of people. And yeah, I thank you guys so much. Enjoy. Thank you so much. And like Kazi says, we'll see you in the next
In
video.
the next one.
Thank you, Sonny.
Exactly. Thank you guys. Peace out.